now we are going to know the topic imparting values through education, which is a part of English methodology. So as we know the importance of language, and at the same time we know the importance of language as well as the communication. So why we are learning language? This is only for sake of to communicate with others. So to communication is an exchange between two individuals or two groups, the conveyor and the receiver. So if the communication should be getting as successful, means if there is a conveyor and the receiver, and both the conveyor should be get ready with the message and the receiver should be in a position to listen to the conveyor, then only the communication process will be going to get success. So here the language is going to become as a good communicator in between two persons, that is sender and the receiver. There is a one who expresses thoughts, ideas and feelings, and other receives and gives feedback. So here the conveyor is sending the message to the receiver, and here the receiver must be in a position to understand the idea, feeling, and in what way they are going to express their views. So it can be never be one sided. If it is one sided, automatically the communication is going to be get failure. If the sender is giving message to receiver, the receiver is not in a position to listen to sender, automatically there will be a failure in the communication. So both the action should be in an active manner, then only the communication is going to get as success. So here the sender as well as the receiver, both the parts are very important for the successful communication. So in this communication, we have to follow certain principles to make the communication as an effective communication, or to make the communication as a good communication. So here the good communication involves an understanding of the audience, the subject, and the manner in which the message is conveyed. So here the good communication is involving and understanding the audience. So here the receiver should be understand the audience. So what the subject they are going to teach, and the same time what manner in which the message is conveyed. So here this manner will be expressed in the form of facial expressions, or with the gestures, or with the postures, or by using different symbols. So these all making the message as very effective communication. So when the receiver is in a position to follow the sender, then the communication is going to become as success. If there is no communication in a proper way without having any mannerisms, definitely it is going to become as a failure, which is become as a passive communication. So here both the subject matter and the manner of in which the message is conveyed, that should be in a active manner, then that will be called as the good communication. This is one of the principle for the good communication. The message should be relevant to the receiver should be interested in the message being conveyed. So here whatever the message is going to receive by the receiver, then they should have some interest to learn that, then only that receiver, whatever the message is received by the sender, that will be become as a successful one. If the receiver is not having any interest towards that particular subject or that particular topic, definitely it is going to become as a failed communication, or which is not the successful communication. So here the receiver has to be paid a lot of attention to communicate, or a lot of interest to listen to others, then only the message is being conveyed and getting as successful. So the learner could be taught politeness principle. So here the learner should learn and the learner should be communicate, then only the language is going to become as a successful one. Like here the language should become as a habit, the usage of the language should become as a regular practice, then it is going to become as a skill. So for example, if we are looking into the swimming or cycling or whatever the activities we are doing, just getting perfection only through the regular practice. So it will become as a habit. So this is called as a like skill. So like the language is also making as a habit, it should be a regular practice, then the learner could be in a position to express their views in the form of using communication. So the communication may be in the what language we can, whether it may be mother tongue or whether it may be second language or the third language. So then they should be taught how to speak to people and how to greet them. So here before making the learners or before making the students to learn the language or to speak out with others, whether it may be individual or whether you are going to communicate the information in the group activity or in the mass, here we have to give certain instructions to how to speak with, if you want to speak with one person, how you have to speak with them, and if you are going to give a speech in the mass, means more number of people, or if you are going to talk with elders, and if you are going to talk with your peer group. So, what type of words you have to use, and what is the procedure we have to follow to speak, these all should be conveyed to the learners in a proper way by the language teachers. Then only the communication is going to become as a success. So, this will lead to their personality development and interpersonal relations. If they have good communicative skills, if command over the subject, whatever they want to express, automatically it is going to build confidence in the learner. So, this confidential level is making the learners to achieve whatever they want to become. So, here we have to follow certain principles to make the communication as a good communication. So, looking into this, the personality development through intrapersonal and interpersonal communication. For example, if you want to make them to speak in English in the initial stages, the learner may not come forward to speak because they have the phobia of English language, so that they are not in a position to come forward to speak out. So, here the teacher has to give an opportunity to speak only with the on their own, like among themselves they have to speak. For example, they want to give any seminars or they want to give any presentations, at that time they have make them to practice, prepare a rough notes and practice them at home. So, here by looking into the mirror, automatically they can express in what way they are expressing, and while recording that voice also we can know that in what way I am expressing and where are the pronunciations and how I pronounce the word and what way I have to speak. These all will be rectified by the recordings or by looking into the facial expressions, by looking into the mirror, or you can make the elders to sit along with them and what way they are expressing their views or what way they are expressing their communication. This should be in a part of a very initial stage. Once they have the confidence over themselves, automatically they do not have any phobia or fear to speak in front of others. So, for that we need to be with others both in personal life as well as in the workplace. So, here the communication is taking a crucial role in our day to day life as well as in the wherever you are working. It may be school or it may be college or whatever the institution or wherever you are working, that is called as workplace. So, there we need proper communication that should be expressed in a proper way, and the same time whatever the expression you are going to give, the learner should be in a position to understand what exactly you are saying. So, next one is we should inculcate in ourselves self-esteem and respect for the others' views, opinions and way of life. So, automatically we have to question ourselves. So, once we have the command over the language, automatically self confidence will be developed, we can develop our self-esteem, and this is going to lead for the respect of others' view. So, if you are proper having communicative skills, definitely you are going to have good respect among others. So, whatever the opinion you want to share, that should be in a polite manner we have to share with others, and the same time opinions, these all the opinions and whatever your ideas, feelings and emotions, that should be expressed in a proper way to make the communication as successful communication. Tolerance for people around us help in building our personality. So, here once we have command over the subject, automatically this is going to build a self confidence. So, this confidence is making individuals to help others, so that the learners are in a position to help and come forward to whatever they want to achieve. So, this is going to become as very successful for them. So, based on these languages, we have to communicate not only the language skills. So, by introducing these language skills, we must be in a position to incorporate some values through teachings. So, here the through teachings are possible only mainly with the teacher. So, whatever the teacher was saying to the student, they will definitely follow. This will be the respect on the teacher. So, the teacher plays a number of roles in the classroom. So, like he is acting as a mentor, he is acting as a counselor, he is acting as a model user of language, a resource of the knowledge for the learner. So, here all the times they used to compare with the teacher. In the initial stages, definitely they will imitate the teacher, means how the English teacher is pronouncing the words, definitely as usual they will follow at home also. And the same time, if they have the chance to speak with peer group, definitely they used to follow the accent whatever the teacher was used. So, this is the impact of the teacher on the learner. So, the teacher is playing a crucial role in imparting the knowledge. So, in this stage not only teaching language to the students, they have to incorporate values while teaching language. So, here the teacher is going to act as a counselor, he is going to counsel the student, he is a role model to the student, and as well as he is the best source for the knowledge. The students will feel that the teacher will know everything. So, whatever the teacher was saying, definitely they will follow with the teacher. So, the teacher has to take crucial role in making the student and in learning the language in a proper way. So, to fulfill these imparting the values, the teacher uses social and academic language which the learner emulates. So, to communicate the students in a proper way, especially we are talking about the imparting values. So, these all the values we have to look into that, and these should be incorporated as a social point of view and the same time the language or the academic part of view. And in the formative age, teacher can inculcate positive values like punctuality, discipline, respect for others and respect for the country. These are very important one for the human being. So, if we had not followed certain formative age principles or the inculcating positive values, definitely they are not going to get recognition in the society. So, here the basic formative age, at the formative age, teacher can inculcate the positive values like punctuality, discipline, respect for others and respect for country. If we are respecting others, then only you are going to expect respect from the others. So, at the same time punctuality is very important one, and discipline. So, these all we are going to teach in the classroom by the teacher. So, before going to teach all these values, as a teacher we have to follow. So, that is, teacher should be disciplined, the teacher should be punctual, then only they can have the authority or they can give instruction to the student in what way we can inculcate the values. So, first of all the teacher has to follow all these basic disciplines, then only they can teach to the students. So, the study of literature in the form of, so here we are making the language learning into different types like short stories, novels, and the students to find moral lessons anywhere. So, these are the basic sources to make them to learn the moral and the ethical value. So, in the initial stages we are making them to learn short stories. So, within this short story, after explanation of the story, the moral should be there. So, based on that they are trying to think about that moral values. And the same time we are looking into the so many novels, we are looking into the so many drama, and we are looking into the poetry, prose part. These all should be at the end of the lesson, at the end of the poetry, that should give some moral or that should give some value or that should give some ethics to the learners, so that it is making them habit of practicing all those in their day to day life. So, here the student can't sit to teach values throughout the classes, or one class we can teach the values, but it is merely waste, but it should be taught in the form of only the stories and novels, so that it is making the student or the learner to learn the language, including as a part of imparting values as a successful one. So, here we are teaching language through the literature part. So, in this literature we are looking into the poetry, prose and the drama. So, coming to the poetry part. So, when the students are taught patriotic poems, one can inculcate the values like patriotism, sincerity and honesty. So, these type of poems definitely has to think the student to follow all this patriotism and the sincerity and honest. And the same time, while the poem is explained by the teacher, they must be in a position to feel the poem, how the poetry has explained the poem in a proper way, means as a human being we have the aesthetic sense. So, that sense should be followed in while explaining the poem. In the poetry we are looking into the nature. The student may develop rituals like love of nature, humanity, religion. So, these all will be inculcated in the language teaching only through the poetry as well as prose and drama. So, here these all the values we can't make them to learn, or taking hours together we can't make them to practice. So, the regular practice is needed by joyful learning or activity based. So, these poetry is making the student to learn in a proper way, and the same time they will try to follow that one. And so, the belief in God may strengthen when they read about the nature and life. So here they are going to respect on the nature, they are going to respect on the God once they deeply understood by the poem. So the poem should be clearly explained by the teacher, then they will come to know the importance of nature, they will come to know the importance of life, they will come to know the importance of nature and God. So coming to drama. So this is used as a key pedagogy to encourage the teaching, enhance the teaching language and to develop the 4 different skills. So as we all know the basic skills of language, listening, speaking, reading and writing. So these all will be developed through the drama. So here the drama is making a key pedagogy to enhance the teaching language. So here the drama is making the learner in concentrating on listening part. So definitely everybody will listen with comprehension, with interest. So that is developing the listening skill. So after completion of the explanation of drama, then they will try to speak out whatever the characters were there, clearly they are going to explain. So this drama is making the development of the speaking skill. Whereas coming to the reading, so these novels are making the student or the learners to read the books in a very interest. So this is also making the students or the learners to read more number of books. So here the drama is making the students and encouraging the reading of books. The next one, once they are perfect with all this, definitely they are going to write it. So these all focused by looking into this drama. So the basic skills will be fulfilled with the help of drama. So here the student learn values effortlessly when they are taught through drama. So here the drama, they never feel bored down about this drama. So here the drama can be explained through role play or creating some situations in the classroom or making the students to act on the same place, so that every student is going to learn as a active participation in the classroom. So that definitely they will involve in the practicing the drama, they are definitely entering into the role whatever exactly they are going to do. So this is nothing but the making the student as a activity based or with the joyful learning. So to make all these basic skills of language LS or W, the short form LS or W, so here they have to refer so many books, they have to refer into dictionaries, thesaurus and whatever the internet sources they have, these all should be referred. So here as a part of this reference skills we use this dictionary in general, and if we want to go depth into the subject, we are looking into the thesaurus. So here what is the importance of dictionary? So here the teacher should teach how to use a dictionary to know the meaning and use of the words. So in the initial stages we have to make them for the reference part the dictionary. So here the teacher has to give proper instructions how to use the dictionary. So here the dictionary is making the student whatever the unknown words are there, whatever the unknown meanings, these all will be very clear in the dictionary, and the same time how the word should be pronounced, where we have to give the stress and where we have to give the phonetic transcription also available in that dictionary. So here the meaning is going to be find out in the dictionary, and so these all the benefits by the dictionary. So in the initial the teacher has to make the student to use the dictionary. So this is making the student to know meaning and the use of the word. So here one word we can use as a noun form, the same word we can use as the adjective or the verb form. These all be very clear in the dictionary. Coming to the next one is a thesaurus. So here the thesaurus is not exactly the dictionary, but it helps in finding out synonyms and the antonyms of the word. So here in the difference between dictionary and thesaurus was, just in the dictionary you are going to find meaning and how the different forms of the word. So whereas coming to the thesaurus, it is not only giving the information, along with that we need to get antonyms and the synonyms of the word. So exactly the thesaurus giving the word of the root word, from where the word exactly had derived from, that will be available in the thesaurus. That is a major difference between dictionary and the thesaurus. The next one, by this thesaurus the learner can develop their vocabulary by using thesaurus. So here automatically once they are interested in learning the language, so these dictionary and thesaurus are making the students to improve their vocabulary, and what are the different forms of vocabulary and what way we have to pronounce the word, these all very clear in this dictionary as well as to the thesaurus. So, this is about the imparting the values through education. Now, we are going to conclude this one. Just now we discussed about different points about the how we are going to impart the values through the teaching of especially the language, and as well as coming to the point of view how what is the importance of language and the different types of communications and what are the principles of good communication. These are all very important one in our life. So, here as the teacher of the language teaching is very important one. So, here to develop the especially the basic skills of language, that is a part of our life. So, that skills should be used in our day to day life, then only it is going to become as a habit to the student. Especially we have the scare or the phobia of English language. So, that is going to be overcome by the regular practice of different activities like role play, conducting of some activities, conducting of drama and all those. These all making the student or the learner to learn the language in a proper way. So, here to make the language as an effective language, here the teacher has to follow the classroom instructions. So, to teach one subject, to teach the language or one part, we have to follow certain methods, approaches and techniques. So, here now we are going to discuss about the topic methods, approaches and techniques of teaching English. So, for the approach. So, before entering into this, we have an information about this approach. So, here as we have the linguistic in the 19th century, they had done lot of effort introducing all these methods, approaches and techniques. So, here linguistic from the 19th century, they fought for this improvement of the quality of language teaching. So, especially in those linguists, Henry Sweet in the year 1845 to 1912 and Jesperson from the year 1860 to 1943 and Palmer 1877 to 1949 and the next one E.M. Antony from the year 1960. So, these all had done lot of effort in introducing these and by identifying 3 levels of conceptualized like approach, method and technique. So, here these all the persons were elaborated and introducing principles and approaches which are going to give lot of information to the student. So, by entering into this, first of all we should know what do you mean by approach. So, this is approach is a set of correlative assumptions dealing with the language and learning. So, here it is just assumption, just it is an assumption or the imagination or the hypothesis dealing with the language learning. So, here this approach is describing the nature of the subject matter to be taught, what exactly the subject is going to teach, how the subject was introduced, how the subject is came into existence. These all will be looked after by the approach. Coming to the method. So, one more point we have to know about the approach is going to establish a relation between theory and practice of the language learning. So, here it is going to make the relation between theory and the practice of language learning. So, if there is no relation between theory and practice, automatically there will be a communication gap. So, here the first approach term was used by Anthony E.M. in the year 1965. He was the first person introducing this term approach. So, based on this there were lot of effort were done by the so many linguists like Palmer and Henry and as well as Jesperson. These all had done lot of effort in introducing this. So, here why and what is the importance of language and why we have to learn the language. So, at the time of World War II there was a great discussion among these introducing this language. So, when the committee was visited these all the states, they are coming to know the importance of language that should be introduced especially for the Indian, so that it is going to become all the way benefit for the trading purpose as well as for the communication part. So, any teaching that happens in the society reflect the practice and the principle in the society. Whatever is going to be happen in the society, that will be reflect the practices and the principles. So, here then approach may have the several method. So, here it is a combination of several methods. The approach is a combination of several methods. Coming to next one, method. So, the method is an overall plan for the orderly presentation of language material. So, it is an overall plan, it is giving complete plan for the presentation of the language material, what way you are going to present, exactly what you are presenting, what is the procedure you are going to follow. These all will be in a systematic plan, then only the method is going to get as success. So, it is nothing but the presentation, it is an overall plan which is planned in a systematic manner for representing the language material. So, within one approach there can be many methods. So, it is an overall plan using which a language can be taught systematically. So, here if there is no systematic in language teaching, definitely there will be a gap, the learners may not understand the language in a proper way. So, that systematic plan of language is very important one, which is making our plan as success in the language teaching. So, here we will come to one example. While teaching grammar, if the teacher want to teach grammar, whether first of all they have to think whether they have to start by giving examples or introducing formula or the principle. So, that should be very clear to the teacher, means while teaching grammar the teacher has to be clear that whether they have to give example first and then the rule, means the structure, for example subject plus verb plus object, this is a structure. So, these formula should be introduced to the students before example or after the example, that clarity should be there with the language teacher. So, otherwise if they want to give example first and then the rule, or they can go for by giving rule also they can come for more number of example. So, the practicing more number of examples are making the learner to learn the language in a easy manner, or if they want to provide a set of rules or establishing the procedure. So, these should be very clear to the language teacher, then only the language is going to learn by the learners in a proper way with simple techniques. So, these all should be known by the language teachers. So, coming to the technique. So, the technique is an implementation part, that which actually takes place in the classroom. So, here I want to teach in a poetry, just what I will do, I look into the textbook and read the poem as it is with proper pause, stress and intonation. So, here it is a technique. For example, if I want to teach in a poetry part, that should be in the rhythmic manner, where exactly we have to give the stress, where exactly we have to give pause, these all should be very clear. Then only the students will come to know the sweetness of the language, or then only they will come to know the poetry worth or the nature of the poetry. So, here by this I have to look into the technique, it is an implementation that which actually takes place in the classroom. So, it is a particular trick used to accomplish an immediate objective. So, taking into the 45 minutes as a class to the teacher, so the teacher has to think that these 45 minutes how they must utilize the 45 minutes in a proper way to communicate with the student. So, that is the major objective. So, the major objective should be very clear to the subject teacher, especially the language teacher, by following certain techniques. So, here the technique is a strategy that the teacher uses in the classroom to put across teaching. So, here by using the blackboard, by writing something some exercises or some structures on the blackboard, or by reading lesson or explaining the concept. So, based on the topic, based on the concept, the teacher has to adapt what technique is suitable to teach to the topic, that should be very clear to the teacher, then only that topic will be delivered to the students in a proper way. These clarity must be there with the teacher. So, now we are looking into these approaches are very important one. So, by this we have different types of approaches, like entering into the approaches, the structural approach, the situational approach, communicative approach, constructivistic approach, collaborative approach and the eclectic approach. These are the major 6 types of approaches. So, coming to the first one, the structural approach. So, the structural approach especially was developed by the C.C. Fries and Robert Lodo, worked in America on this approach. So, here the situational approach and the structural approach. So, here it was introduced in the post independence in India. So, to know how the structures should be used in a proper way, there was a lot of work done by C.C. Fries and Robert Lodo, and he worked in America on this approach. So, this approach is an English made nearly around 240 structures, which is leading to make them as master. So, by knowing these 240 structures around in the initial stages, definitely it is going to become as a confidence in framing the structures or preparing the notes or explaining to others. Those structure are very important one to speak with others. So, here coming to the pattern of whatever the experts or the linguists believe that in pattern practices and it is majorly forced on the oral skills, the oral and drill. So, this began as a audiolingual approach. So, that the structural approach is begun with the audiolingual approach. This is also known as the SOS approach. So, this began as an audiolingual approach, which is known as SOS approach, structural oral situational approach. The short form is SOS approach. So, in India the structural approach was assured by John Forster as a part of MELT companion. So, here the MELT means Madras English Language Teaching. At the time they used these structural approach by introducing around 240 structures. So, one more linguist had done a lot of effort on these approaches. So, Hornby. So, he suggested that structures are not to be presented in isolation, but have to be practiced in a context as a situational. So, around Hornby also identified around 45 patterns of which captures the structures. He identified around 25 patterns in which the captures the structures. So, these SOS approach is become as more operative form from the year 1940s. So, this SOS approach is become more operative form from the 1940. So, this is an other alternative for the method, direct method. So, the SOS approach is an alternative method for the direct method which came into operation form from the 1940. Coming to the features of the structural approach. So, the language learning should begin with the spoken language. So, obviously everybody has to accept the language teaching should be begin with the spoken language. So, the items of grammar should follow the principles from simple forms to complex. So, here in the initial stages language should be taught with the simple words and the structure should be very simple. So, then only they will try to understand and try to concentrate and try to show interest to learn the English language. So, here we have to start it from the simple forms. So, once they are getting thorough with the simple forms, then we can shift the student to the complex forms, so that it is making not to feel any difficulty in framing the sentences which were even complicated. For example, in the initial stages we can teach subject plus verb plus object. So, this is in a very simple form. Later we can make the sentences as the direct indirect speeches or the passive active forms, and the same time different types of sentences. So, this is we have to follow from simple form to complex. This is one of the feature of structural approach, which is SOS approach. So, the process of learning should regard reinforcement as an important element. So, here whatever they are learning, that should make them to show interest, learn something as a very important element. Whatever the structure they are learning, they have to feel it as very important element, then only the language will be very comfortable to the students. So, the teaching of language or learning of language method should consider language as a habit formation process. Once the student become as a habit of speaking English, definitely it is going to make a lot of confidence, and they are having or trying to gather lot of information. So, this habit is going to build a lot of confidence among the subject as well as lot of confidence among themselves. So, once they have the confidence about these structures, automatically they can be in a position to achieve their desired goal. So, the new language point should be meaningful, introduced in the situational practices. So, here we are introducing so many words, so many meanings to the students in the initial stages. So, these should be practiced with the students in a regular life. For example, we have the reference skills like dictionary and thesaurus. By taking the help of dictionary and thesaurus, we can make the student to learn what exactly the word meaning, what are the different antonyms and synonyms of the word, and how we have to spell the word exactly. We can follow the phonetic transcription also. So here this is possible only the regular practice. So automatically this is making habit of improving the vocabulary. So reading and writing should be introduced after establishing sufficient lexical and grammar basis. So here the reading part and the writing part should be introduced after establishing the sufficient information the teacher has to provide, or the textbook should be provided sufficient information with different types of examples. So these examples are making the learner to practice n number of examples. So based on that they are overcoming these grammatical mistakes while writing or while speaking to others. In the initial stages nobody won't bother about the grammar part. So later once they have the confident I can express in English, then we have to think about the grammatical part. So the grammar part is very important one as a part of this language development. So as per Palmer, he advocated there were 3 processes in learning as a process of this SOS approach. So in this the first one is talking about receiving the knowledge, fixing it in the memory, practicing it till learning is internalized. So here first of all, as per the Palmer, he advocated 3 processes in the language learning, especially we are talking about the SOS approach. So in this the process 1 is talking about the receiving the knowledge. So here first of all the learner should be in a position to receive the knowledge, then only it is become as a success. So the receiving the knowledge, as well as next part is talking about fixing it in the memory. So whatever the knowledge we are learned, whatever the knowledge we kept in the mind, that should keep in a memory part. So here we have to look into the academic standards, as well as here we have to look into the discourses. So automatically by practicing n number of examples, the knowledge will be there in the mind, it will be fixed in the mind. So here only the source is activities or the practice, that should be as a part of regular practice. So the practicing it make learning as a internalized. So whatever the chance they have the student, or whatever the possibilities they have to represent, or whatever the possibilities they get to perform, definitely they have to utilize that one, so that it is going to become as an effective approach or effective language communicator. So in this SOS approach, which was established with certain objectives of the teaching as well as coming to the learning. So here by these objectives we are coming to know, or we are going to make the student to learn, and importance of the SOS approach. So the first objective is talking about command of the 4 basic skills. So obviously language is talking all the times about the fulfilling the 4 basic objectives: listening, speaking, reading and writing. So here once we have the habit of making or following this SOS approach, definitely it is going to create command on the 4 basic skills, whatever the language is required. So the next one, mastery of both pronunciation and the grammar, because here the SOS approach is talking about more number of oral and the drill practice. So once they have more practice, definitely it is having mastery of both, how to pronounce the word and what way we have to represent it is in the form of written form. These all will be very clear to the student, so that definitely they are going to become as a mastery of both pronouncing the word as well as the grammar part. So the ability to express in speech situations, once they have the command, definitely they will express as per their views or as per the situation. This is an ability will be developed through the SOS approach, because we are giving more importance for the oral as well as to the drill, practicing drill. So the ability to use structural and sentence pattern, once they have a more number of chances to practice in the form of oral expressions or in the form of drill, definitely it is going to create or interest in framing the structures as well as usage of the different sentences, which in the form of by following grammatical items. So by following these, we have to look into these advantages. So, every approach is having their own advantage to fulfill those objectives. So, the first advantage is talking about systematic presentation of the structure and the vocabulary, because here you are giving structure. So, the teacher is giving clarity of the structure as well as the with the example. So, this is making the learning, language learning, especially the English language, as a systematic presentation of the structure and vocabulary. If the presentation is not clear, if the presentation is not in a systematic, definitely it is not going to become as a meaningful one. At the same time, the vocabulary, exact what type of vocabulary we have to use and what way we have to communicate, these all the instructions should be followed by the systematic manner. The next one, drill and repetition minimizes the mistake. By doing one exercise for number of times, repeated times, different types or the n number of times, definitely we are going to rectify the mistake. Means here we have a proverb that practice makes man perfect. So, by doing all this or the repetition or the drill, it is giving an opportunity to learner, minimizing the mistakes. So, once these opportunity was given by the language teacher, definitely the students are going to get confidence. Yes, I can perform. Yes, I can do. I can speak out on any topic. So, such type of confidential levels will be developed only through drill and repetition of the activity. So, coming to the every approach is having their own advantages as well as the coming to the limitations also. So, coming to limitation part, so as we are talking about only, it is focusing more on the oral as well as the drill. So, here the teacher needs a lot of training and guidance to teach structure. So, here we are talking about the teacher has to introduce the student language in the initial stages, like teaching structures. So, these structures should be very well known to the teacher as well as they should be perfect with the structure, then only they can explain to the student. So, here for this the limitation is talking about, if the teacher was not trained, they can't give proper structures and they can't make the student to understand the structures in a proper way. So, the limitation one was teacher needs a lot of training and guidance to teach structure. So, this is a one limitation, means obviously we have to look into the trained teachers, then only they can give proper training towards the language teaching, especially the structures. Next one is greater emphasis on oral language is ascertained than on written form. So, as we all discussed, the SOS approach is more focused on the oral as well as the drills. So, these are making only focusing on speaking area only or the speaking skills only. So, here it is giving less importance for the written form, but as a part we have to fulfill this written part, we have to give equal importance for the written form also. So, that is a major limitation given to the SOS approach. So, the situational learning results in a very slow rate of the vocabulary building. So, here the situational or the structural approach, the situational approach is making or giving results in a very slow rate of vocabulary building. Here they are having only the oral as well as the drill practice, they are not representing in the form of written form, that is one of the limitation. So, this approach enables to account for the fundamental aspect of language. So, that is the creativity and uniqueness of the infinite number of sentences. So, here the SOS approach, the situational structural approach enables to account for the fundamental aspects. So, the fundamental aspects of the languages come out with their own ideas, that is nothing but the creativity. So, the creativity and uniqueness of the infinite number of sentences are making the learner to not getting perfection with all this. So, here there is no opportunity given to come out with their own ideas. So, that is also one of the limitation. At the same time, here the teacher is not trained in a proper way by introducing the structure. If the teacher had not guided the student by practicing more number of examples, definitely it is not going to make as a successful approach. So, these are the limitations of the successful approach. So, now we all discussed about this structural approach, which is a very important one. This is nothing but the other alternative for the direct method, which was introduced by Palmer as well as the Hornby, and the same time so many linguists were focused on this. So, by this we are going to conclude this situational SOS approach. So, as per the structural approach, it was especially developed by, just will conclude by this. So, here the structural approach is an alternative for the direct method. So, as we know different types of methods and as we know different types of techniques. So, coming to the approaches part, so the structural approach had done lot of effort by giving or by producing more number of structures, by giving more number of practices to the students, which is in the form of oral as well as the drills. So, the structural approach had done lot of effort by the so many linguists. In this, one of the famous linguists C.C. Fries and the Robert Lodo, they worked on this for, in America based on this approach. So, this approach especially believed in the pattern of practice and oral drills towards the literary skills. So, not only these S.S. Fries and the Robert Lodo worked on this, along with this we have so many linguists worked on that. So, from the 19th century they bought to improve these quality of the language teaching. So, initially they introduced the language, but here they find that there was no quality in the language teaching. So, based on that, from the 19th century with a lot of effort done by different linguists like Henry Sweet, his year is from 1845 to 1912, Henry Sweet 1845 to 1912. And the next linguist Jesperson is also one of the famous linguists. His tenure is from 1862 to 1943, Jesperson 1862 to 1943. Along with this one more expert we have, that one is Palmer. So, he is also one of the famous linguists. He focused on approaches, or not only the approach, they had given some principles, they had given some techniques towards the improvement of the or the quality of the language teaching. So, the Palmer's tenure is from 1877 to 1949. So, along with this we have one more great linguist like E.M. Antony. He had given the word approach, he had given the word approach in the year 1960. So, here these actually these work had done, the lot of effort were done by C.C. Fries and the Robert Lodo, who worked in America. So, this is a major focus, or it is believing on the pattern practice and the oral skills toward the literary part or the language part. So, this was initially the SOS approach which started with the audio lingual approach and also known as structural or the oral approach. So, in this at the time during the World War II, both the American government and the students who visited the United States for higher studies required training in English. So, the linguists were involved in the program to develop a suitable method to teach and learn English. So, this results in the high demand of the trained English teachers in America as well as in other areas. So, here the Charles Fries, C.C. Fries, and an American linguist applied on this, and he worked on that, and nearly he developed around 240 structures which were related to the SOS approach. So, coming to these was came into existence, and as well as this is going to be helpful in the structural approach by Jane Foster as a year of as a part of this MELT. So, Madras English Language Training campaign. So, especially this training had given for the at the time of military people by making the language as an effective one, by providing not only giving the language, they focused on the quality of the language. So, and along with this we have one more linguist, that was Hornby. He introduced, he is also one of the linguists focused on SOS approach. So, after this especially he focused on not only just he suggested the structures and how to present. If there is no structure, automatically there will not be a meaningful communication, or there will not be a meaningful structure. So, based on this, so many linguists were had done effort. The result was SOS. So, these SOS become as more operative form from the after 1940s. So, we have these different features which is focusing on the SOS approach, that is like language teaching should be with spoken English, and the items of the grammar should follow the principle from simple to complex, as well as the learning should regard in reinforcement as the important element, and next one, learning or teaching process should consider language as a habit formation process. So, reading and writing are the major skills should be introduced after establishing sufficient lexical in the grammar basis. These are the major features focused on this SOS approach. So, as per Palmer, he suggested there were 3 processes. So, the first process is talking about receiving the knowledge. Next one is, once you receive the knowledge, that should be fixed in the memory, that should be fixed in the mind. So, then once it is fixed in the mind, automatically it will help us to in practicing in our day to day life. So, this approach is based on majorly with few objectives like command of 4 basic skills and the mastery of both the pronunciation and grammar, which is very important one for the communication part, ability to express in speech situation as well as ability to use structures and the situations as well as the sentence patterns. So, based on this we have some advantages with the SOS approach. Those are systematic presentation of the structure and vocabulary. This is very important to give the concept or idea or message with the systematic with structure and the proper vocabulary. Coming to the drill and repetition or making the learners to get perfection with the more number of drills and the repeated practices, so that it is going to make the learner to overcome the mistakes. So, for the in this we have some limitations like it is focusing more on the structures. So, the structure is possible only with the trained teacher. So, all the teachers cannot teach to the students in a proper way, because the major intention of the teacher is they have to make the learner to understand the subject or understand the structure. So, making the student to understand the subject is only possible through the trained teachers. So, first of all, this is one of the limitation. If the teacher was not trained in a proper way, definitely they can't give justification to the learner. And the next part is talking about it, all the times it is talking about only the oral or the drill part. So, here the written work is given less important, as we have the equal importance for the language LSRW, but it is giving less importance for the written form. And creating situations or the creating structures results in a very low rate of the vocabulary building. So, here this approach enables the learner for account of the fundamental aspects as well as the language. So, nothing but that is the creativity as well as the uniqueness of the infinite number of sentences. So, once this is an opportunity given to the student, then only they are going to get perfection with this language. They are coming to with their own ideas or the creativities or with ideas, emotions as well as whatever exactly they want to say. So, these all based on the SOS approach. Based on this, we are looking into the importance of SOS approach. Now, we all discussed about the importance and the limitations, advantages and objectives of the SOS approach, as well as we had gone for the definitions of approach, method and technique also. So, now we finished this SOS approach and its importance included focused on the objectives. Thank you for listening.